All right, there we are. The time has come. It's 10 in the morning, Central European time. Now, while we wait for more people to join, for more participants to join, in the meantime, we can officially start today's webinar. So, good morning if you're in Central Europe. Otherwise, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are. Welcome everybody to attend today's Skillman webinar. We're very glad to have you here. Today we'll be talking about ambitious skills and innovation strategies with a special focus on the territorial approach. Well, today's event is organized in collaboration with the Assembly of European Regions. So first of all, I would like to thank these wonderful women who worked very hard for this to happen, and also our panelists who joined us today, and we'll be hearing from them very soon. My job today is actually to give you the main instructions for the time that we'll be spending together and talk about Skillman as one of the main organizers of the webinar. So first of all, as you see from your screen, you have your microphones muted and your cameras are off. Basically, you'll be hearing from our speakers' presentations in just a while. And during that time, you can ask your questions or add your comments through the Q&A box that you find at the bottom bar of your screen, and we'll be collecting the questions and address them directly to the speakers in the last part of the webinar, so during the Q&A space. Moving on, just a quick self-introduction. My name is Valentina. Some of you might know me already. I am the communication manager of the Skillman team. So today's webinar is actually part of a series of webinars of digital events that we are organizing, have been implementing with our partners on EU funds opportunities. The objective of these webinars is to establish effective partnerships and design proposals for future European projects. So we greatly encourage the audience to kind of exchange detailed contact information and to continue the discussion after today's webinar as well. Moving on, from my side, I would just like to explain to you what is Skillman and why we have been implementing this kind of activities so far, and we'll be doing that also in the future. So Skillman is an international network of a multitude of stakeholders around TVET, mainly CVET providers, universities, individuals, industry leaders, and policymakers. And the network is focused on skills research and training in the advanced manufacturing sector. So the Skillman network aims at introducing and exchanging skills to cope with the new challenges and needs of the labor market today. Now what I'm showing to you here are the highlights of the latest achievements that we have been attained with the network. Now we have more than 600 members in 93 countries of the world, and We have ambassadors all over the world that spread the principles of the Skillman network. And we have been doing a lot of activities, a lot of digital, for now, for the time being, digital events around Tibet. So I would strongly recommend you to follow us for more opportunities in the future and more webinars to come in the future. Here again are just a few other numbers, the few highlights that if you want you can check out later as well. Just a reminder that today's webinar and the other activities that we have been implementing are embedded in the SkillNet project, a project co-funded by the European Commission and aimed at implementing a strategy to develop a large network of centers of vocational excellence. We have worked hard within the project in cooperation with a number of organizations, including the Assembly of European Regions, the International Vocational Education Training Association, EAPRIL, and in a special partnership with the European Training Foundation. So I would just like to say that if you're interested in continuing the discussion of this topic after today, please join our peer learning clubs, those groups of experts that kind of regularly engage in discussions around 4 different topics, all related to TVET. You can see the 4 topics here. And as of now, we have more than 200 experts involved in those groups. And so I strongly recommend you, if you want to continue the discussion of the topic that you'll be hearing today, to join those groups. Luca is sharing with you the links to do so in the chat. Last but not least, if you want to watch us streaming, we are streaming live on the Skillman YouTube channel. So if you have any technical difficulties or if you want to watch us there, please, Luca, share the link with the audience also in the chat box. And again, tell us what you think about this webinar. We strongly appreciate your evaluation of the webinar to improve in the future and always give you the best quality possible in terms of those webinars that we really hope are very useful for all of you. Again, for this, Luca will be sharing a link so you can fill the form, the feedback form, and give us an opinion on what you think. Without any further delays, I'm going to give the word to today's moderator, Joanna Pashevicius, the Policy and Knowledge Transfer Coordinator from the Assembly of European Regions. I'm very glad that you'll be moderating today. And the stage is yours, Joanna. After you.
Thank you so much, Valentina, and welcome to all of you. So I'm Joanna Pashevicius. I coordinate knowledge transfer at the Assembly of European Regions. And thank you so much, Valentina, to insist on the need to collaborate. We will come back to this later in the webinar, actually at different moments. This webinar is going to provide you a quite dense amount of information, and you're not expected to be able to use everything in one go. We really encourage you to continue the discussion in the peer learning clubs. Also at the moment in the question and answers, do get in touch with us. Because yes, the information is going to be very dense. So according to the World Economic Forum, as jobs are transformed by technology, we need to reskill more than 1 billion people by 2030. By next year, 42% of core skills required to perform existing jobs are expected to change. That is quite challenging. And on top of that, in addition to high-tech skills, specialized interpersonal skills will be in high demand, including skills related to sales, human resources, care, and education. So as you can see, this is quite a big challenge. And in previous SkillNet webinars, we looked at innovation trends in terms of, and the needs in terms of skills. And we looked in particular at the circular economy, for instance, or new mobilities. However, there are really many interdependencies between regional development policies and needed skills to sustain innovation strategies. So this is why we shaped this webinar around territorial approaches to skills and innovation strategies. Indeed, in the context of regional innovation strategies, rural areas should really play an essential role, not just as a source of raw material or a convenient place to locate industries, or even, as we saw in the COVID crisis, as a refuge, but really as a genuine partner. So this is why place-based approaches call for collaboration, cooperation at all levels. So today we have, I will invite the panelists to put their camera on so that you can see them all. Today with us we have Agnese Panteloni, EU project coordinator at the Assembly of European Regions. She will give us an overview of EU funding support that is available or that it would be accessible for partners in rural areas. It's quite dense, so, and at the same time, it's just an overview. Elena Ferrario and Katharina Krell will introduce us the service of peer reviews that is offered by the Interreg Europe policy learning platforms. Why we think this is so important is because, as you know, it's all about how to have these integrated approaches. It's not just about funding opportunities. It's really about how to implement better strategies and then look at the funding. It's not just the funding. And then we will have an experience from Donegal. Vinnie McGrory will explain how they are upskilling and addressing the needs for innovation and skills in Donegal, which is a beautiful and very rural area. Okay, so I will now give the floor to Agnese for the overview of opportunities.
Agnese, where are you?
Apparently Agnese has a problem. She's connecting again. Elena and Katharina, would you mind starting otherwise?
Sure, no problem.
Thank you.
We can do that. Thank you, Anna, for this very nice introduction also to Interreg Europe and its policy learning platform. I will now start sharing my screen. Yes. Okay. Let's see if this works.
It works perfectly.
Great. I just need to go in slideshow. Oh, yeah, great. Okay. So as Joanna just said, I am Elena. I am the thematic manager of the policy learning platform. And together with Katharina, my colleague, expert of policies on low carbon economy, we are giving you now an introduction into what is the policy learning platform and why this is a very interesting tool for capacity building and skills development for those of you who work on regional development policies. We like to call the policy learning platform as a space for continuous learning, a space for continuous learning dedicated to regional policymakers. What we do is that we take stock of all the knowledge, results, experience coming from Interreg Europe projects, but also beyond Interreg Europe projects. And we make all this wealth of knowledge available across Europe to all persons interested in regional development policies. Why do we do that? Well, we do it because we believe in the power of cooperation. We really think that by taking inspiration from others, you are able to better perform in your daily work, increase your skills, increase your capacities on regional development. And in order to do this, we organize a series of services, a number of services, online learning possibilities. We offer also events and personalized policy advice. And this is what we are going to focus on mainly today, the personalized policy advice. But first, actually, everything starts from our good practice database. This is really the place where Interreg Europe collects all this information coming from the regions across Europe. All these territorial practices coming from everywhere are basically analyzed by our experts and validated in order to be able to be somehow featured in our database. So the database is really curated by our experts. And there are a series of criteria that need to be fulfilled in order to be there in the database. Evidence of success or transferability, for instance, are those important criteria to be in there. And I have listed in the slide some of the good practices that you can find there that are really, I would say, very relevant for the topic of today's webinar. But there are many more, so you're really encouraged to have a look in there. And once you enter basically Interreg Europe and its community, you are part of a big family of 18,000 members and potentially all like-minded people like you, interested in cooperation and potentially interested to connect with you and create opportunities to work together in the future. We organized a number of webinars to diffuse this information that Interreg Europe has. And I would like to maybe flag up two of these webinars that are upcoming very soon. One is actually taking place tomorrow, 10:30 Central European time. And this is the last one of a series of, we call them mini webinars, really like only 30 minutes webinars dedicated to a very specific topic. This one, the one of tomorrow, is on how to bring skills to companies. And you're of course welcome to register to that one and to watch also the ones that are available on our website. And I give the floor now to Katarina, maybe for a little focus on the one to come in April, jobs and skills for the energy transition.
Thank you. In the 29th of April webinar, we're focusing on skills for the energy transition. So moving to a low carbon economy requires not only technology and funding, but also people, like professionals that are skilled and know, for example, how to optimize a building in terms of energy, how to correctly plan and implement an energy audit, how to wire all the equipment, how to advise citizens and companies on energy issues, etc. So these skills are not necessarily already part of a traditional training curriculum. So we have invited 3 speakers to share their training concepts and experiences and to illustrate what policymakers, regional policymakers, can do in their territories to foster the development of new skills. And 2 come from Interreg Europe projects, Build to LC and Poverty, and the other is an external speaker. I'll be moderating the event. Registration is already open, and I will just share the link in the chat with you for whoever's interested. Thank you.
Thank you, Katarina. So we move forward because the policy learning platform also offers publications, written publications that are available on our website. And of course, I highlighted here 2 that may be again of interest to you because we really go into the topic of today's webinar once again. One is about skills for innovation, drafted by our experts on research and innovation policies. So really how to match the skills on the territory and the needs for smart specialization strategies in particular. And once again, I give the floor to Katarina for instead the other policy briefing, also extremely relevant for you today.
Yes, our policy briefs are usually 15 pages long and intended to inform and inspire regional and local authorities. So that's really our target audience. In the area of low carbon economy, we write about mobility and energy issues. We look for relevant topics that are high on the policy agenda. Then we turn to the Interreg Europe projects to examine what they have done in the area. And thus our policy briefs are always containing a thematic introduction, a background on EU policy in the area, and then 5 to 8 concrete good practices that have been developed by regional authorities or by cities to illustrate what policymaking can do to address the issue. And of course, always a summary of recommendations and funding opportunities. So often we first write a policy brief, like here we have written on skills for the energy transition, and then we organize a webinar as I've just announced. And I'll be happy to share in the chat again the link where you can read up on skills required for the energy transition.
Super, thank you, Katerina. So I continue with the thematic newsletter. So if you're interested in all the material that and the activities that the Policy Learning Platform organizes, well, you are warmly welcome to sign up for our newsletter. We call it Policy Digest. It's really a collection of all the material information that we produce on certain, like, very specific topics each time. And this is basically directly in your mailbox, a newsletter coming every 3 months, more or less. So please do not hesitate to sign into that one as well. Now let's focus on the personalized policy advice, really what makes, I think, the difference in the Policy Learning Platform. We provide specific support to regions, local authorities, national authorities that have a specific challenge on the way they do design, implement regional development policies. So we offer a policy help desk, we offer matchmakings, but maybe the thing I want really to focus on today is the peer reviews. I heard also for Skillman, you organize peer learning clubs. We are also doing peer reviews. There are several organizations in Europe really focusing now a lot on this peer-to-peer learning. I think definitely this is really the winning tool for increasing our skills and capacity building. Many people do it. I think this is really great because our target groups have a lot of opportunities to learn from others. This is really great. So our peer reviews are a 2-day on-site or online meetings where basically the Policy Learning Platform organizes everything. Our target groups are local, regional, and also national policymakers, in particular with a focus on structural funds, but not necessarily. Basically, any organization having a stake in the design and implementation of regional development policies. What we do is that we organize this face-to-face exchange with experts, peers that have something to say on this specific policy challenge, that have lived it, that have some expertise to bring to another region that would like to learn more on a specific subject. We really do everything from A to Z. Our experts organize it all. And now we see a little bit the process, how it looks like. So first of all, we have a very easy application process, 2 pages only, it's online, no supporting documents, nothing. It's very fast, and we also provide immediate support also in this application stage as well. The evaluation process is also very quick, lasting 1 month only, maximum, and everything is really flexible. The implementation, everything is flexible. Once the application is validated, the whole machine starts working. The experts move forward. We produce together with the beneficiary of the peer review a background paper, which really serves as a kind of a setting the frame and describing the context really of the policy challenge, because this is really about going in depth into a specific challenge related to a specific territory. And we together identify potential peers coming from the Inter-Europe community and beyond. And the selection of the peers is made in cooperation between the experts of the platform and the beneficiary organization. Then there's the peer review. 2 full working days, online or on-site. I hope very soon on-site to be seen again. Again, the experts do it all. We organize the agenda, we select, there's the peer selection, we prepare the peers, and we actually do the implementation of the peer review as such. At the end of the 2 days, the beneficiary of the peer reviews has a list of recommendations, a very concrete list of to-dos, advice that basically the organization can start implementing from day 1 after the peer review. So very, very concrete things. And what is interesting here, I think, to highlight is the follow-up process, and in particular, maybe the 3rd bullet points that you see on the slide. We also care for what happens after the peer review. So we come back 12, 18 months at the end, after the peer review as such. We go back to the beneficiary of the peer review and we ask, okay, what happened? Where you are with the implementation process of your policy? Have anything improved? To which extent? How the Policy Learning Platform can further help? Have you kept contact with the peers? Are the peers cooperating, etc.? So this is really, I think, to show that we really care from the start of the process till the very end of it. This slide shows maybe with this map we would like to show how fast growing is this service for us. We just started implementing it maybe 2 years ago, and now we see that there is a lot of interest, and several regions in Europe have benefited with success, I would say, benefited from the peer review service. And once again, maybe Katarina can give you an insight into one of the peer reviews that she led fully recently, again on skills. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. Yes. To illustrate the peer review service, let me give the example that fits with the topic today, which is skills. Concretely, the applicant was the region of Western Macedonia and the office of the Vice Governor for Energy, Infrastructure and Environment. The background is Western Macedonia is a coal region in transition. The Greek government has decided to phase out coal in the next few years. And there is an expectation of a very harsh socioeconomic impact. And the worst expectations concern the loss of employment. So all these mining jobs and the coal-related jobs will be vanishing. So the regional government is having a very strong need to keep as many people in employment as possible. And so they're looking at skills for the future. Skills that will be needed and that come with this energy transition. And you might not know it, but energy efficiency as a sector is having a very high employment creation potential. And there are so many targets and directives in this area. I mean, essentially all under the big topic Europe has to decarbonize, that when the regions are implementing all these directives specifically related to buildings and to energy efficiency, the demand for new skills will come naturally. So then there have to be professionals that are able to take it up. Otherwise, the transition will also be slowed down. So to better plan its own policies, the region that doesn't have specifically skilling programs for the future energy efficiency skills is looking for advice on two topics. On one hand, they wanted to see how to train professionals, new ones, or also people that are already in the jobs. For instance, to become energy auditor, energy advisor, equipment installer, construction workers have to be trained how to implement energy renovations, etc. And on the other hand, the region wanted to see what programs they can set up to support their SMEs to implement energy efficiency measures in their building and also in their processes. So essentially, they were looking for very good training programs and very good SME support programs that have already been implemented elsewhere and that had a good replication potential. So we organized a peer review with 4 peers. 2 came from public administrations, 1 from an energy agency and 1 from academia. And the region on their side invited all its relevant stakeholders, its knowledge institutions, its training providers, and we had 2 days of very intense exchanges. Now, these exchanges did not happen just spontaneously. They were actually very well prepared. And this is where I believe the added value of the peer review service of the policy learning platform is coming in. So the policy learning guided the whole process. The peers were very carefully selected based on their previous experience and also on their capacity to share and explain the details. They were briefed. On the other hand, the host region was briefed. The stakeholders have been carefully invited. And so there was also very hands-on moderation. I've moderated the whole process with thematic guidance and also helped to draw together the recommendations based on everybody's presentations and the discussions. So the result is the region now wants to set up a new program to support SMEs with energy efficiency audits and subsequent investment support for the measures identified in the audits. And the region is also studying concretely how they can organize its local universities and training providers so as to set up new training programs for energy efficiency, both for blue collar and for white collar workers. Maybe a final word about the format. You see, this is an online peer review. First, it was planned as physical event, and I think everybody was a little bit reluctant. Could this intense exchange happen actually online? And I must say, I think now I'm a big fan of the online format. It saves a lot of time for traveling. We are able to find 2 days that suit everybody much easier. So we can plan the peer reviews much easier. They can take place now that in this important year where so many programs need to be drafted, and we don't have to wait until we have the possibility to meet physically again. Also, it's a very low carbon solution. So actually they work very well, and to overcome any language barriers, we're having simultaneous interpretation with the plugin. So also that works very well. So what did the region have to do to get this? Well, just a simple application. And there you can see in the comments, the peer review was a great opportunity for us to come together and to come into contact with good practices. I believe we have got some very interesting conclusions. You have provided a lot of food for thought. Any other stakeholder was commenting something similar. So overall, we get a lot of praise, and this is very rewarding. So over to you, Elena.
Okay, so very, very last comment on my side. What is the value of a peer review? We listed 4 of them, but there's probably many, many more. The first thing, again, highlighting the hands-on advice that the peer review of the policy learning platform provides to the beneficiary. So really very, very concrete suggestions and hints for the beneficiary of the peer review, which are very much appreciated, because then people can really like say, okay, I can do something. I can start immediately working on something. Obviously enlarging your network of valuable contacts, because with the exchange is so intense with the other peers that really some kind of connection is really created, and then it lasts much, much longer than the 2 days of the actual peer review. What we also found very interesting is that this is a very good opportunity to enhance your relations with the local stakeholders. Regions, cities are called to enlarge the invitation of the peer review to local stakeholders, also in charge in a way or another of the implementation of the policy. And therefore, this is an opportunity for them to get together and with this external view of the peers, somehow find a good opportunity, a good occasion to reflect together on the way they do regional development policies. So it is really an interesting moment for them to reconnect or to connect. And finally, obviously, then you are also, then you become part of this group of enthusiastic of peer of peer reviews, and then you also have the opportunity to become yourself a peer and to attend other peer reviews in the shoes of a peer, actually. So voila, this is the overview of this service, among others, of the policy learning platform, and we are very happy to get in touch with you. Please do not hesitate to contact us if you need further information and help on this. Back to you, Joanna. Thank you.
Thank you so much, both, and thank you for making that very clear link between EU strategies and regional implementation and the needs for skills. Thank you for detailing that. And I totally agree with you as well on this, this fear that we all had that mutual learning wouldn't really happen online, that it would not be the same if we don't see people. And in the end, we're able to actually get on board people that would not be able to travel, that would not be available. So we get actually local and regional expertise that we wouldn't get otherwise. And if people are committed, if they are well prepared, and if the exchange is well facilitated, actually the real connection happens as well. And you even build friendships. So this is actually something that we noticed at AER as well. And again, it goes very much into this direction that and that I would give to all the participants as well is, please do ask questions. Please go and ask people things, even silly things, and you'll get, I mean, it opens doors, and it opens doors to real connections, real collaborations, and you get access to expertise. It's just magic. Thank you so much. Agnese, if you're back online, we can go to the presentation on funding. Awesome.
Yes. Yes, thanks, Joanne. And I'd like to apologize with all of you for before, but I'm experiencing problems with the connection today. Joanne.
Agnese, the sound is still not very good. So if you could maybe switch off the camera and try without the camera. Agnese, we can't hear you. So maybe we move to the other presentation otherwise, unfortunately. Or Birgit, can you step in or? No. Okay, so unfortunately, this is not going to work well at the moment. Vinny, if you are available to share the experience from Donegal, then we will make you a presenter.
Good morning. Hi, Joanna, and greetings from Donegal. My name is Vinny McGrory, and I would like to talk to you about our experience in training people for employment. I'm going to try and share my screen now, so I'll give you a look at my presentation. Let's see. Hopefully this will work. Can everybody see that? Hopefully.
Yes.
Yes, yes, very well.
Okay, right. I'll just talk about, give a little bit of context first. So County Donegal, which is the northwest of Ireland, key features of the county are its peripherality, size, rugged landscape, dispersed settlement structure, island life, and extensive Gaeltacht area, which is an Irish-speaking area within the county. Population is spatially scattered, and it presents a significant challenge for public service delivery, and relatively poor transport infrastructure makes this even worse. Now, that sounds all pretty grim, but having lived here for quite some time, it's actually a great place to live and work. We have challenges. Unemployment is relatively high at the moment, but it is something that we're addressing. On contrary to that, we have some vibrant work areas or industries in Donegal. The biggest town in Donegal is Letterkenny. The population of Donegal is it's only 160,000. And the biggest town, which is Letterkenny, is 25,000 approximate. So our numbers aren't huge. Having said that, within Letterkenny, we have approximately 3,000 people working in the ICT fintech area or industry. Quite high tech. So that's almost 12% of the population of Letterkenny working in fintech. And we're quite a significant part of the fintech landscape nationally. Also, we have a very vibrant engineering industry in Donegal, both in Inishowen and in Killybegs, are really significant players in the engineering industry. So it's a bit hard to work out at times. Donegal is quite rural, yet it has these vibrant industries within as well. I work for Donegal ETB, which is the Education and Training Board, and within one part of it, we have 15 second-level schools, but we also have a further education and training section, and that's the section that I work within. So we do a lot of work with community, we do a lot of work with voluntary sector, we work in the private sector, but we also work closely with enterprise in Donegal, and a lot of what we do recently has been about working with industry. Just to give you a bit of perspective on training for people in employment in Ireland and in Donegal. So the background to this, much of Ireland's future growth must come from improved productivity of those already at work and those entering the workforce. So this is a national strategy. And in around 2016, Solace, who would fund part of what we get in the ETB, initiated the development of a national strategy on workforce development. I was fortunate enough to be part of that committee that developed the strategy, so we had an insight into development from an early stage. Out of that strategy, a number of programs have either been created or some that were already in place. So Skills to Advance was developed, and it was primarily focused on upskilling the low-skilled and in industry throughout Ireland to help increase productivity. Skills for Work was aimed at even lower skilled people within the workforce to increase productivity. An apprenticeship, which has always been quite strong in Ireland, allows us also to work really closely with industry throughout nationally and locally. So we have a number of different interventions for people in employment. This is what we did. So a number of years ago, we were given the responsibility to look after training for people in employment in Donegal. So we had that autonomy. And one of the things that we did, rather than rush in and try and do all things for all companies or all industry, we decided to take our time and think strategically. Now, it sounds, everybody talks about thinking strategically, but it does. The important thing is that you take time to think through your strategies and what you want to actually achieve and how you're going to go about it. One of the big challenges that we would have had in Donegal, and this is an Irish phenomena, and it may be in other countries as well, is that third level is seen as being the ultimate objective for all school-leaving children. Our job is to ensure that further ed and training, or vocational education as you would know it, has a role to play in the lives of people moving on from second level. And that challenge has been there. We're addressing that challenge, but it is a real challenge. So we really had to put a focus on showing the value of further education and training to the general population, and in particular to enterprise. So we put a lot of thought into that. And we needed to put a value on the service we provide. So we need within ourselves not to be intimidated or feeling second best to third level, to actually say, well, we have a really great service to offer. It may not suit everybody, but those that it does suit, it works really, really well for. So that was part of the focus. The other thing that we focused on, which is pretty obvious now, is we had a sectoral approach. So we knew that fintech and ICT was a really big area, so we focused on that. We also knew that engineering is a big area, we focused on that. The caring industry in Donegal and in Ireland is significant. So that's care of the elderly, care of the young. So we did a lot of work on that as well. So we focused on the sectors, and that was really important, and that has paid off. Resources. Resource the team. Again, this sounds really straightforward and logical, but you would be amazed how much difference it makes in getting the right people in the right jobs. We have a team now, an enterprise engagement team. We have 2 enterprise engagement officers, and they are so well suited to their job that it makes our job so much easier. They are basically salespeople with quite technical knowledge of training, so they can engage really well with the industries, but they also know enough about training, and they know more than enough about training to have meaningful conversations. So their work is really successful at the moment, and that's going really well. Behind them, we also engaged, and this was a new position we created, it is called an enterprise engagement coordinator. And his job is to gather the information collected by our 2 enterprise engagement officers and ensure that it goes to the right people, that it's monitored, that it's project managed, and that the right responses are given so that nobody gets left out, because nothing would undermine our task or our mission more than engaging with the industry and then finding out that we forgot to come back to them, or we came back to the wrong thing. So the coordinator role, while maybe not as glamorous as the front of house lilies, is really, really significant. I would advise that anybody engaging in this ensures that they have somebody who operates at that level. The fourth and significantly important role we also created is we created a role for a program development officer. And what her role is, and this was a new role again, and we recruited this last year, is when we engage with industry, and if they highlight skill needs and identify skill needs, if we do not already have the program developed to address those skill needs, we now have somebody on board who can help us develop a new program. Because one of the really important things for us as a further ed and training engaging with industry is agility. We need to be fit to respond quickly. Having our own program development officer is a key part of that and is working really well. So we've done all of that. We took time to get the resources. Communications, we have a communications lady team who is second to none. And again, we're really fortunate in that sense. We have the right person in the right role. And she's been highly active in getting our message out there to industry. And one of the things that we did, and again, this was a conscious decision, is we ensured that we partnered up with our other organizations within the county, so the Donegal County Council, the local enterprise office, the IDA, the Chambers of Commerce, who have many, many networks. So rather than recreate their networks, we partnered up and utilizing their networks. Now, to do that, we had to prove to those organizations that we were capable of delivering what they would require so that they would engage their clients with us. To date, that has worked really, really well. The other thing that we have is we have a client relationship management system, so that every engagement that we carry out now with industry is recorded on the system. So our intelligence is growing all the time, and the coordinator looks after that CRM, and that's key to our future movement and strategy, is the intelligence contained within that. One thing we did also is, and this has worked out really well, is we've teamed up with the local, a local radio station in Donegal, in Letterkenny, but its reach is quite significant and it has a real high listenership. So they have a business program, and we've engaged with that. We've sponsored that for the first 6 months, and that has allowed us to reach out to many, many other enterprises who are now aware of what we're doing. And so that has worked really, really well. But again, that was something we had to decide to do. Program development, I've mentioned already, it's research and development, it's agility. And the one thing that we insist on is certification. If we're going to put a value on the training that we do, we have to ensure that it's certified. Employers don't always see the value of certification, but our job is to convince them of that, because once they value it, they will then look for more and more of it. The big challenge for us is convincing industry that what we have to offer is of real value to them. Delivery methods and COVID, one of the few things that COVID actually has helped with is remote learning. We've advanced significantly faster in that area than we would have considered possible because of COVID. So remote learning is a key part of what we do, or online learning. We also have a facility called Contacted Training, and that's where we engage with private sector training companies, and they allow us, so we engage them to carry out training on our behalf under a quite strict quality assurance system, but it allows us to access skill-based tutors that we wouldn't have on our own books, and it allows us a great degree of flexibility, and the ones that we work with in Donegal are really top-notch trainers. We also do evening training. We also do on-site training. So we train for people at their base or on their campus or wherever it needs to be. Just a few quick examples of some of the successful interventions that we've had. Multinational company based in Letterkenny, they have approximately 1,100 people. They were data processing was their business as part of a greater multinational. It was found that perhaps that would not ensure their survival within Donegal. So what they've done is they've strategically decided to move up the skill chain and move into software development and software testing and those areas. To date, we've trained over 100 people for those people for that company, and the plan is to train hundreds more to enable them to pitch for work that they wouldn't have previously had the skills to do so. So we strategically have aligned with them, and we're providing the training for them. The cost to them is minimal, and then we can bring in the expertise to provide that training. That's working really, really well, and they're really pleased with that. Another area is Killybegs, which is the biggest seaport in Ireland, which is in Donegal. Engineering is a huge part of Killybegs industry. We work really closely. There's a Killybegs Harbour Regeneration Group, and we would be working closely with those guys in providing training in engineering sectors, which will allow them to grow. And it's expected that offshore wind farms, which are due to be implemented off the coast of Ireland quite soon, Killybegs in particular will be a key player in that. And what we'll be doing is training people to work in that industry. The carrying industries, when COVID hit, we had an interaction with the county childcare group, and we actually provided online training in infection prevention and control, which allowed all of the childcare facilities in the county to open by August 30th through the training that we provided. So it was a really quick response that we provided, but it worked really, really well. Last example is the ILM, which is the Institute of Leadership and Management project. Nationally, it was identified that supervisory management or higher was a major lack in industry across Ireland. So we're working closely now in Donegal, and we're providing online supervisory management training for 2 cohorts at the moment, and we intend to grow that significantly afterwards. That's it. My name is there. Contact details are there. There's some examples of people that have trained with us. Unlike the rest of the guys, online webinars are fine. I much prefer to travel and meet people. So you're all very welcome to come to Donegal. It really is a nice place to be. Any more questions? I think Valentina will confirm. The presentation will be shared with everybody. So if you want to contact, that's fine. And listen, thanks for the opportunity to talk about this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you also for really showing the need to work on the ecosystem, on the meaningful links with the stakeholders in the territory. I think it's, when you said it's so important that nobody gets forgotten, that you don't reach out to a business only to forget them afterwards. I think this sounds like basic social skills, but it's not that obvious and not that easy, actually. It takes work, a lot of work. And especially with the challenges related to rural areas, because of distances, of infrastructure, etc. It's so important to work on the ecosystem, on the community. And I noted down also how you use the radio. That's a very clever way also to reach out and to use the communication means that are actually being used by the community. So very, very impressive. And also how to make the role of vocational and education training more relevant to people, so that they change their mind about it. We did a webinar on that as well. Okay, so if we have a few minutes left, we're going to try to show the brief overview of funding opportunities from Agnese. I would recommend, Agnese, that you would only go very quickly over it so that we still have a little bit of time for questions.
Okay. Thank you, Joanne, and apologies with all participants, but I experienced problems with the connections. Eventually, I will switch off the video to be sure that I can keep the connection, and I try to be brief. So the objective is, in fact, to give you, in a nutshell, the main European founding programs to look at in the next years, as we just started a new multi-annual financial framework, to have the main elements to consider for the future. Rural areas represent a great opportunity for the future of Europe, and this was even more evident during in the context of the COVID-19 crisis that changed somehow the relations between rural and urban areas. When we think about projects and the initiatives for in the context of the rural areas, as a first thing we in mind, we have the future of the common agricultural policy 2021-2027 that has quite much evolved during the past years. One of the main funds to look at is definitely the European Agricultural Fund for rural development. That is one of the pillars of the CAP, where the funding will be mainly concentrated in smart growth and green economy. Another fund to look at is the ERDF. So next slide, please. that yes, represent an important fund for the development, the economic and territorial development of the European Union by correcting the imbalances between regions. In the new financial framework, the ERDF will focus quite much on smart growth and green economy. And funds are also allocated to strengthen the equipment for health facilities, and also to finance equipment for online education that emerged as quite key in the context of the COVID-19. The European Regional Development Fund is managed by the member states themselves through partnership agreements in collaboration with the European Commission. Within the MFF 21-2027, we see the transition from the European Social Funds to the European Social Funds Plus that merges other funds on top of the ESF. Within the ESF Plus, the ESF Plus is actually the main European instrument for investing in people, with the aim of building a more social and inclusive Europe. And it does have a combined way of management, direct and indirect. Therefore, here also the member states plays a crucial role, having the managing authorities to develop the operational programs. Therefore, if you want to develop projects in this context, of course, it's a good advice to refer to your managing authorities. For rural areas is also important, and please next slide, the European territorial cooperation programs, better known as Interreg programs, where there are like more resources allocated to climate and social issues within the current financial framework that includes also public health. At the moment, the Interreg is quite busy in the drafting of the new programs. Therefore, there will be a quite long way to see the first launch of the new call for projects. But it's for sure a quite important program to look at in order to develop projects in different fields as environment, health, education, sustainable energy. Next slide, please. Another program that I would like to highlight to you is the ERASMUS Plus, with quite an increased budget for the period 21-2027 that maintains the structure of the three main key action. Key action 1 on mobility for learners and staff. Key action 2, partnerships for cooperation and exchange of practices. Key action 3, support to policy development and cooperation. Something that I would like to highlight to you here is a new feature within the key action 1, that is the ERASMUS accreditation. This is a kind of, is a form of, let's say, membership within the Erasmus Plus, aimed to build a community of organizations that regularly exchange staff and learners. Accredited organization will have the opportunity to apply for funding each year, and also other kind of benefits. The first call for the Erasmus Plus accreditation was launched in 2020, and there will be calls every year. Next slide, please. Something that, of course, is super important for the next years is Horizon Europe, that continues to be the main financial instrument in favor of research and innovation, and the work program is expected to be published in April 2021, and then call for project proposals will follow. And Horizon 2020 will finance a wide range of projects, and the participation in Horizon 2020, in Horizon Europe, sorry, is open to all types of organization within the EU and also outside the EU, of course, depending on the call. On the different calls. What is important within Horizon Europe is its strategic orientations to contribute to the recovery process based on the green and digital transition, as well as resilience. Next slide, please. On top of funding opportunities and funding programs, I really like to list you also other resources and tools that the EU makes available when it comes to develop initiatives in relation to rural areas. One is the LEADER initiative that supports the development of projects to revitalize rural areas through a bottom-up approach. Then it's the European Network for Rural Development that is a hub for sharing ideas and experiences on how rural development policies works in practice, and also is a hub that facilitates the knowledge sharing and the networking for all rural stakeholders. Interesting is also the Smart Specialization platform, the Agricultural European Innovation Partnership, and the Policy Learning platform that was introduced just before by Elena and Caterina. I will conclude, Joanna. As you mentioned at the beginning, rural areas are also quite a key topic for the Assembly of European Regions, as within our network, we have over 140 regions from 30 countries, and most of them actually belong to rural communities and areas, and how we facilitate, how we help them in that context through different typology of activity, exchange of best practices, advocacy activities, and interregional EU projects. In this context, EAR is a dedicated project unit that provides different services in terms of funding and projects. And I would like to conclude by inviting you to a training webinars, a training on funding for regions and the stakeholders in the context of the MFF 2021-2027 that EAR and the Skillnet will organize in the coming months. This training consists of 3 webinars. The first one will be in May or June. I invite you therefore to check the EAR and Skillman website, where you can find more information on the dates and other details. So this is it. Thank you very much for your attention and patience as well with my problems with the connection.
Thanks a lot, Agnese, and sorry to everybody for the slight delay. Valentina, is it okay if I ask just one question to a panelist?
Please go on, yeah.
Sorry, thank you. So we had one question for Vinny that was about the certification. So who was doing the certification? Who was the certification body?
Okay, pretty good question. We do not restrict ourselves to one particular certification body. We will go to whichever organization or certifying body that we feel best matches the requirements. So we have QQI, which is the Irish National Certification. We have City and Guilds. We have vendor certification, which in tech is quite important. So Microsoft, all of those. So it depends on the needs. We access whichever is best fit.
Okay, thank you. Yes, that helps. And then I saw in the chat also, João Santos shared that actually the calls for Erasmus Plus would open probably maybe even today, but at least very soon. So that's an information that is important for everybody. You can consult also the chat. There's a few links that were shared. I think we're going to stop the webinar here because it's already running late. Thank you to everybody for all these very valuable inputs. It's very dense. All the presentations will be available on the event webpage. And please do reach out to us for any further information. Yes, and Erasmus Plus guidelines are already online, I see.
All right, so thank you very much, Joanna. Thank you to all the panelists. Thank you for the attendees who participate. Tomorrow we'll be on with another Skillman webinar, this time on innovation and farming. I hope to see many of you there. So have a great day, great night, great evening to everybody. See you soon.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.